Welcome to Por Eso and Just Because with Marisol. Today's episode, we have an amazing young lady who enlisted in the Marine as a young lady coming in to seeing a recruiter and finding out that the recruiter told her a whole different story. Stay tuned. Sandra, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I would like to, I know that you have an amazing story to tell. And I, first of all, want to say thank you for being here today and to share your amazing story. First of all, we would like to know who is Lisandra Toribio?
Well, thanks for having me. But I'm 23 years old. I was born in New Jersey, and when I turned 18, I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, and I left home. And now I'm done. After 4 years, I came home, and I'm just here to tell my story.
I can imagine this beautiful girl. To me, and I'm pretty sure for a lot of out there, will say the same thing. You're just so beautiful. It's like a Barbie face. How I cannot picture you with this uniform, with this shotgun, with this combat boots. How can you tell me how did you end up going into the Marine Corps? Why did you decide to go to the Marine?
Well, I wanted to go to college right after high school because all my friends, were going to universities, they were going to visit schools. And I was also visiting schools, but I really didn't want to have student loans. And I knew that if I decided to go away to a 4-year university, I was going to come home with a lot of student debt. And that's just something I didn't want. So I just looked into, actually, I got a letter in the mail saying, oh, you should consider from the Marines. And one of my friends from high school, he was already enlisted, and I had asked him, I was like, hey, I know you enlisted in the Marines. I just got this letter in the mail. I see that they pay for college. I see that, I won't have student debt and I'll get a college degree out of it somehow. And then he took me to the recruiting station, and the rest was history.
Wow. And that's the history or the story that we would like to know. First of all, when as a parent, I don't know if I will ever want my child to serve any institution, which I will feel proud because, the country that we live, the country that we love, why not serve the country? But that was the only reason you decide to enlist? Just because you didn't want to have a student loan, or there were other reasons, maybe perhaps personals at home, or
Honestly, it was just the school 100%. I just wanted a college degree, and I didn't want to come home. And I just knew that if I got a college degree, and I didn't even know what I wanted to go to college for, I just wasn't going to make enough money to pay off this crazy amount of money. So honestly, when it comes down to it, yes, it was 100% about school.
okay, well, at least we have the opportunity in this country that you can enlist in any one of those of institution, and you can actually go to college and get paid for it and have no loans at the end of the day. But behind all that, there is more story to it.
Oh, yes.
When you tell your parents, I'm not staying home, I am not going to no community college, I am not getting bombarded with student loans, I have decided to leave home and I am going to join the Marine Corps. What was their, I mean, please, I'm impressed. I want to hear this.
So my parents told me that if I go to the community college for the first 2 years, they'll buy me a car, and then I'll transfer to university. But I had told my mom, I was like, hey, I'm thinking about joining the military instead, and she was actually a lot on board, but my dad was not on board at all, and he actually thought I was joking until the day came that I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go sign my life away. So. And he's like, I think we should talk a little bit more. And I'm like, no.
Did you have that conversation more deeply, more into it?
Not as much as I thought I would. I told him that I was really considering it, and he was like, kind of just brushed it off a little bit. And he's like, no, I think you should stay. I don't think you should go. But it was never like, okay, you're not going. But then the time came, and I just told him, I was like, Dad, I'm actually doing this. Like, we took the time. We went to go visit. they talked to me. I'm going to do it. And then he was like, okay, now we need to sit down and we need to talk about this.
So when he said, let's sit down and talk about it, you already had went to meet with the recruiter.
I met with the recruiter. I took
and
my test.
Who went, well, first of all, I believe that you first have to take a test and then meet with the recruiter. Mm-hmm. Who went with you to this recruiter, to the appointment or the meeting?
So the first time I went with my friends because they do like these group workouts, and he was like, just come with me one day, see if you like it, you'll talk to the guy. And I was like, okay. So I went with them. Everybody was really nice. And then I talked to my recruiter, and he was like, didn't really care. He had to get a job done, but then he ended up leaving. So I got transferred to another recruiter, which my mom's like, they know each other now. They went to my going away party. They were super nice to the family.
But at that time, your mom didn't know them.
No. So I was there by myself.
So when you go to this meeting, to this recruiting, you go in the second time with your mom?
Right. So I went in the first time. This was after I had got the letter. So she knew that I was thinking about it. And then once I told her, I was like, okay, I really think that I'm going to consider this. She's like, okay, well, I need to go talk to them. So then we scheduled an appointment, and we went together to go discuss, what could be and what can't be.
And Lisandra, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of us, myself and a lot of our audience who are listening and seeing our podcast today are asking themselves, before you went to your recruit with your mom, to meet your recruiter for the second time with your mother, did you do any research? Did you and your mom and your dad sat down and said, you're big, because I know you have a big sister, sat down and did some research, like what were the benefits of me going into or meeting this recruiter with my parents and convince them that this was the right choice for me? Did any research?
If I'm being honest, I didn't do any research. I should have explored the other branches.
And that's my question after that one. So
I didn't do any research. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I just told my mom, and we booked an appointment, and we just showed up, and they told us what we needed to know at the moment.
Okay. And we're going to go into detail about that. And one of the questions that I also have is, why the Marine Corps and not any other institution? Why?
Well, I'm actually really happy that I didn't look into anything else because, like I said, we are the best. So I wouldn't change it for the world. But I don't know why I didn't look into anything. It didn't even cross my head to, hey, maybe you should try the Air Force, maybe you should try the Navy, or maybe even the Army. It just never crossed my mind to try something else. As soon as I got the idea in my head, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this.
So you went with your mom, and with your mom was very detailed about the questions that she asked. Was she involved with what was going to be your life in the Marine? What can she expect as a mother? My child is going away. What were the benefits? Why would I want to send my child away? Even though you already had made that decision, but as a parent, I think we want to be supportive.
Mm-hmm. I think that she went in with the mindset of asking them, okay, if I let my daughter go, what is going to happen to her? Is she going to be okay? Is anybody going to be watching her? Because, at the end of the day, I'm still like a little girl at this point. So I think that she tried the best that she did at that moment to fully understand what I was doing. And what they were explaining to us was basically appealing to what she was asking. So if she said, oh, well, I see that in the brochure, she's going to get to travel. And the guy was like, yeah, everything that my mom said, he had an answer for that complimented her, basically.
So did you believe that the recruiter kind of sold you a dream?
100%. The recruiter sat me down and told, like I said, everything that I wanted to hear: pay, travel, benefits, health insurance, college, everything. It was like a dream. Like, okay, all I got to do is go away for 4 years and my life is painted for me. Picture. Yep, picture perfect. And that was the dream that I was sold.
Do you believe that the recruiter, or perhaps you, should have been asked more question and said, okay, one of the questions that he asked you was like, do you like to travel? Mm-hmm. And of course, we all love to travel, but
so I was like 16 at the time, so a junior in high school. So of course I'm like, hell yeah, I want to travel. I want to go see the world. But I didn't know what to ask being that young. Like, okay, well, I just didn't really know what to expect, what to ask, and I believe that my mom didn't really know what to ask either, because they were telling us everything was going to be so great. So we were just like, okay, what bad can come from this?
Sure. So you went at the age of 16?
I initially was, my year of high school was when I started looking into colleges. And that's when I was like, okay, well, if I'm not going to get help from school, I'm just going to start looking at other options. So yeah, I started my journey at 16.
So you went in. At what age did you enlist?
18.
18.
Mm-hmm.
So here is the day. 18 years old, beautiful, Barbie face, because you're so beautiful, and I'm pretty sure everybody agree. 18 years old. Now, my little girl, my little princess is going away to the Marine. How was that going away party? The mom, the dad, please tell me a little bit about that day.
It was like a dream come true. I felt like a princess that day. Everybody was celebrating me. Like I said, my recruiters came. They partied with us. Everybody was just having a great time, because we didn't realize that like everything was going to change after that, and it really did.
Okay. So you leave to your boot camp. Where did you go?
So I shipped out of Brooklyn. So that morning, well, I had to stay overnight. So I shipped out of Brooklyn to South Carolina.
Nice.
And we took a plane ride.
And now you get to your Atlanta?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. This is where you started your boot camp?
Yeah, Paris
So
Island.
tell me a little bit about your first day in boot camp.
Well, so by the time we traveled and everything, I think we ended up getting there a little bit like at nighttime, because it was really dark. So we're a whole bunch of girls. We don't have our phones. We don't have watches. We don't have anything on us. We don't even have an extra pair of clothes.
Okay.
And we get on this white bus, and they tell us to put our heads down. And we're like chatting next to the girls. We're like, oh my God, I like, what's going on? What's going on? And then that's when like the friendships start happening, because we're like, okay, like we flew together. We came from Brooklyn together. So we're chatting, and then they tell us to put our heads down, because they're not allowed to see where the island is, because they don't want us to leave. So they make us put our head down, so we don't know where we're going.
The whole idea of you putting your head down?
Yeah, so you don't know where you're going, so that way you can be like, okay, well, the exit's right there, kind of thing.
Like, I want to get off the bus?
Yeah, so you're not allowed to look out the window, yeah. So then you stop, and then that's when all hell breaks loose. You stop, and the drill instructor comes on the bus, and he starts screaming at you to get up, get out the bus, grab all your stuff. And then that's when you stand on the yellow footprints, and they give this like beautiful motivational speech, but they're also screaming at you at the same time. So you don't really know, like, okay, am I getting yelled at because I'm doing something wrong? But they're basically saying like your life is going to change for the good or for the bad. Like, you're never going to be the same person again. You know, you're doing something so amazing. You're serving your country. But at the same time, It sounded so negative, because they're just screaming in your ear. And then it's just chaos. They're just trying to process you through. So they're screaming at you, getting your paperwork done. And then they put you in this room for like a day. And then you just sit there. I remember sitting in the room for, I think, at least 24 hours. And they gave us this food that we didn't even like to eat, because we have to adapt to it kind of. And then it's just chaos. We didn't even go to our beds until like 24 hours that we were sitting in this blank room with nothing in there. And then we got all of our stuff, we got all our uniforms, and then we went to it's called a squad bay, which is where you live. And then they try to get us settled. We don't get to shower for like the first 3 days. So we're like in our clothes, and then we do shower one day, but then we have to put our clothes back on again. So we didn't even get to put our camis on until day 3. So that's 3 days, maybe like half of a shower you get barely. And then it's called Black Friday. So you usually get there on like a Wednesday, and Black Friday is when you meet your actual drill instructors, because the drill instructors before were just processing you through, getting you ready, getting your bed set up. And then Black Friday comes is when you meet like the people who are going to make you Marines, basically. And that is a crazy day, like in itself. So like you get your camis on, so you're like, okay, finally I got my camis on, so it's real now. And you're sitting down, and then they come in and they do this speech. It's also another motivational speech. They're like, we're gonna make you Marines, we're gonna push you, we're gonna make you the best of yourself. But the whole point of it is that they basically break you down and then they build you back up. So that day was just called Black Friday. They came in and they started throwing everything, screaming at us, getting in our face, and we don't know what's going on. We're all young girls. We're 18, 16 years old. This one girl was 15. Yeah.
Is that legal?
Yeah. So actually, Guernsey, my best friend, she went to boot camp, and she was 17, I think. Like she just turned 17 because her parents signed for her to go. She finished high school early, went to boot camp, and then, but yeah, it's just the whole 3 days is probably like the worst day because you don't know what's going on. It's such a culture shock. Everybody's screaming. You're like, what am I doing wrong? And it's just a lot to handle.
So now you're there, and they're kind of brainwashing you.
Yeah, that's basically the point. Like, scrub everything that you know. This is what you're going to know now. And they teach you how to walk, how to stand straight, how to drink, how to eat, how to shower, how to talk to them. Like, you can't say, like, I. You have to speak in the third person. So you have to say this recruit. So, because you're basically not a person until you graduate. So you'd be like, this recruit requests permission to speak. And they could be like, no. And you'll be like, this recruit requests permission to use the bathroom. And they'll be like, no, ask me again.
But that's more discipline, and they're kind of training you for what you signed for.
Mm-hmm. Because the way you speak to people in the Marine Corps is different than how we speak.
So at this point, you're there for how many hours? 2 days?
Well, I was there for 3 months.
No, well, at that point
this is my living area. So this is where we're sleeping, where we're going to be spending, like, this is our home, basically. This is our house.
So when you get there, and then when do you start your boot camp, your training?
So there's, I would say like day 3 or 4. Right when the drill instructors come is when you start, basically. When you get your camis on, then you start the whole thing. And then there's 3 phases. So it's the first phase is like physical. The second phase is more like studying and get the book work. And then the third phase is like actually making you, like, letting you become a Marine, basically. So
wow.
Phase 1 is mostly like working out, running a lot.
And how long does it last, your boot camp?
It was 3 months.
3 months.
Mm-hmm. So I went in March and I graduated June 6th.
Okay. Do you believe you got the right training? You were prepared when you graduated?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do it because like you said, I mean, I was babied my whole life. I'm the baby of the family. And then when I get there, I never worked. I never did anything. So I got there and it's just, okay, these ladies are screaming at me. What the hell? What did I get myself into, basically? So I wouldn't have been able to do it without the girls. Like we each had each other's back. Like the girl would I didn't know how to do my hair. Like, and she would do my hair for me. It's just crazy how much influence some girl that you don't know from Indiana can change your life with you. So it's crazy.
At that point, did you had any regrets already that you want to come home?
I mean, of course I had a regret because, it's so different from the life I was living, the luxury life I was living versus, now, like I can't even shower sometimes, but I wasn't going to back out. And there were girls there that said they didn't want to do it.
So when you said shower, we're talking about females. And as a female, you definitely, because you need some good hygiene. How long is your shower? How long would they give you to shower?
So we lived with 40 girls. Actually, we started with 50, but we graduated with like 40 something. So it was split onto 2 sides. So 20 of us would like assembly line, like walk through the shower and then walk out. So basically like maybe 30 seconds a shower each day. And sometimes we would probably wash our hair like every 3 weeks, every 2 weeks if we were good.
So you will have you will wash your hair every 3 weeks?
Or like 2 weeks, yeah. If our senior, which is like our mom, if she felt like we deserved it.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And how was that? Like,
well, the girls would wake me up in the middle of the night and they would be like, "All right, let's go wash your hair because it's been a long time." Like
you smell.
It's a little crazy, and it sucks because sometimes the girls' hair would get like, because we can't ever have our hair down. So let's say we do take a shower, we do wash our hair. We would have to tie our hair right away. So your hair would sometimes get a little moldy and nasty.
Wow.
Because it's never down. So.
Well, you signed for that. Mm-hmm. Right. So now here you're done with boot camp. Mm-hmm. How was your graduation day, your ceremony day? Who was there? Who was there to congratulate you from your family and your friends?
Mm-hmm. So the actual ceremony where you become a Marine it's private. It's just you and the instructors because they reward you with, after your 9-mile hike back from wherever we were at, it's at the end of that, they give you your Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, and they say, okay, you're a Marine now, you did it. And then after that, we get a family day, and then my immediate family came, so my mom, my dad, my brother, and sister. And then after that is the actual graduation day.
Okay, so now the day It's amazing. So after that, do you get a job? Do you get assigned to a job or to a unit?
So after that, we get 10 days off. So we
Mm-hmm.
get to go home for 10 days. And then we go to combat training, which every Marine has to do. So that's only 1 month. But during that month, they're a little bit more lenient with us because we're Marines now. So they have to treat us with as we are Marines. You know, we can talk normally. We can talk to each other. We can talk to the guys, you know. But yeah, so it's a month after. And then during that month, you shoot machine guns. You sleep in the forest. You throw grenades and stuff like that. And then after that's done, then you get assigned a job. And then you get stationed. Well, then you go to your schoolhouse to learn that job. And then you get stationed.
Okay, nice. And now you're there. You graduated. You have a job. I hear a lot about vaccines, and now with COVID-19, everybody's they're encouraging everyone to get their vaccines because of COVID. But your vaccines are a whole different thing. What kind of vaccines do you guys get, or do you know what you're going to be getting?
So I would say our second week in boot camp, we go to medical, and that's when we get all of our screening done, all of our shots done. But that was probably like one of the most traumatizing things one of them. So we go on this line. It's another like assembly line, just full of girls, just walking through like all the doctors. And you walk through, and the doctors go, okay, tell me your name, tell me your birthday. And you tell your birthday, you have any allergies? No. And then they put 2 needles on each arm. And then you walk to the next guy, and they do the same thing twice. And then they do it one more time. And then you go around the curtain, and they give you they call it a peanut butter shot, but I think it's penicillin, and it's thick, and they put it in your butt. And then you have to sit on the floor and roll it out for at least 30 minutes because it's like really like, oh, that was crazy. So I don't know what kind of shots I was getting at the moment.
So they don't give you no information for you to read or for what they put in your body?
No, I don't know what kind of shots. I just know that the peanut butter shot was penicillin, and we got it twice, and it really hurt.
Really? So what about menstrual cycle for females? Because now you guys are limited to shower, your hygiene.
Hygiene is definitely icky because we're running around all day. We only get 1 shower a day, barely. But none of us got our period for the whole 3 months. Not one person.
What do you mean you never got your period?
No, none of us got our period for 3 months. And I lived with 40 girls. And on the other side was another 40 girls. And nobody got their
But did they told you that you were going to get something for that?
No.
Did you guys ever question why I'm not getting my period?
Well, we were like, okay, well, this is, maybe because we're so stressed out 24/7, 7 days a week, maybe it's preventing it. So that's what we were thinking. Like, okay, maybe we're all at the same amount of stress that it's coincidentally none of us are getting our periods.
Yeah, but all of them, it's kind of something was different.
And then this one girl, she had got it in the beginning, but it was just in the beginning. And that was it. She was done like the next day.
Okay. Now, what about deployment? Did you ever went on deploy? You got deployed?
Yes, I deployed last year, 2019.
Where did you go?
So I went on a Westpac MEU on a carrier ship, and I went, should I just name all the places we went to?
Sure, it would be great to know. You traveled. They promised you were going to travel. So mention it.
So I went to Hawaii twice. I went to Thailand, Japan, Guam. We went to Jordan 3 times, and then we were in the Middle East and Bahrain for about a month.
Okay. And your mom must have been, or your dad, your family, deployment. When we hear deployment, we're thinking our child is going to go away. They're preparing them for a war, not knowing if they're coming back. How was that, your mom reaction, or your dad, or your family?
So my mom was more helpful with this deployment. Like, she helped a lot. She actually knew where I was before we knew where we were going, because on the ship, they wouldn't tell us anything about where we were going. And my mom would be like, I would hit her up and I'd be like, hey, I'm in Thailand. She's like, oh, I already knew you were going there. And I'm like, that's crazy. I didn't even know I was going to go there.
And for how long you were away on deployment?
So straight, I was gone for 7 months, but with the preparation and everything, it was about a year.
Okay. Lisandra, there's a very sensitive topic that, and it's usually about there's a narrative about the sexual abuse in the military. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because we hear a lot of things that's happening in the military.
I mean, it's a really big issue, whether you're a boy or a girl, but they give us a whole bunch of training, and no matter what happens at the end of the day, stuff does happen and stuff does get pushed under the rug, which really sucks. But there is so much help to get, and they make sure that we know that there's help to get. And there's so many classes that we have to take about sexual assault and sexual abuse, but it's just sometimes you don't, like, your work environment prevents you from speaking up sometimes, and that sucks.
So do you think that it's happening, but people are not saying anything?
Oh, 100%. That's what's happening, because, well, sometimes they like brainwash you. I mean, I don't know. I'm just assuming, but anything could happen, and sometimes it's better to stay shut in some situations because it might just make your life a living hell versus, stuff like that.
Did you ever experience any sexual harassment from your boss or your friends?
So I've definitely experienced inappropriate behavior, but never sexual assault or sexual abuse, and I'm very thankful for that.
Did you report any of those?
So sometimes when I was uncomfortable, thank God that I was around people who actually cared about me, that they would notice and they would ask me, hey, I seen that this is happening. Do you want to do something about it? And I would always, I'm like, no, it's not that serious. If it happens again, I'll say something and then I'll let you know. But never that I had to report someone.
What about your friends, your close ones?
Same thing. Of course, everybody, all the girls that I knew, we would always experience, inappropriate behavior, but nothing to that extent, which is really good.
Also, there is a lot of, not a lot, but there is some suicidals going in there. Do you had any experience?
So,
seen or one of your friends or your mates?
So 22 service members take their lives a day, which is really sad, and the numbers keep increasing. And actually in 2018, my best friend, she took her own life, which is really devastating for her.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's okay. But yeah, she took her own life and we had to deal with it. We were young girls, our best friend just basically took her own life. And, work just, the job comes first. So that happened, and it was hard to get off from work just because I wanted to go see my friend who passed away. And, they instill in you, okay, your job is number one. And that sucks because, a lot of kids are dying. And just before I left my unit, 2 boys ended up taking their own lives too. And last week, a girl who I went to boot camp with, she just passed away as well.
And do you know why this is happening?
I mean, we're all alone out there. I had nobody for a long time. My first 2 years, I was all by myself, and we're young. We're not adults. We leave the house right when we're out of high school. So it's a lot, and work is like really hard sometimes too.
And do you, when you experience that your friend took her life and you still seeing sexual harassment that's going on, but nobody is just keeping it on the low, nobody's saying anything. At any point in time, did you had any regrets? Like, wow, what have I done to myself? Why enlist and go through this?
Definitely when my friend passed away, because I didn't have anybody to turn to at the moment. And that's when I was like, okay, is this really for me right now? Because this girl who was full of life, she just took her life and I don't even know why. And I'm like, sometimes I will be like, you know what, maybe she had the right idea. But obviously, I didn't do anything crazy like that. But I'm sure that, sometimes that thought will go through my head, and it goes through a lot of kids' heads because, well, like I said, we're all by ourselves out there. Those are the only family that we have is each other.
How long were you in the Marine?
So I did a total of 4.5 years, and I was on the West Coast for most of it.
Did you try to re-enlist, or did you want it to?
Yes. So on deployment, I was going to make my decision if I wanted to re-enlist, and that if I liked the deployment, then I was going to re-enlist. And I ended up loving the deployment, so I had decided to put in a package to re-enlist. But the way that the Marines work is that they don't need you. They don't need Marines right now. So I basically didn't get accepted to do another 4 years. And I was like, okay, well, if I don't get accepted, then it's not meant to be. So, they didn't accept me, and I was like, okay.
Well, I would think because of you in the Marine, you're serving the country, and you say to them, I want to re-enlist. I would have think that they would have been like, yes, stay.
No, that's
not how it works.
No, it's all a numbers game. You have to be better than the person to your left and right. And for my job, for an example, there was 50 spots for my job alone, and 100 of us applied for those 50 spots. So half of us didn't get to.
Wow.
They didn't get to re-enlist, or we had to wait another year and try again.
So now you're done with the military. Now you're coming home. How is that transition? Do they prepare you to come home?
So they like to say that they prepare you, but all I've known for the past 4 years is, okay, they're telling me when I'm gonna go eat, they're telling me when I'm gonna go to sleep, they're telling me all these things. So I basically know what's planning, and they give you a week of classes just to prepare you for the real world. And in my opinion, I took the class and I didn't learn. I learned maybe one thing, and I took my password to the login to the website that I use once in a while. So I don't think that I was prepared to come home as much as they thought that we were, but
But they, I mean, when they're telling you you're going home and you're done now, you're hanging up your uniform, your combat boots, and you're no longer that badass.
mm-hmm.
What? How do you react to the whole new world for you? Because now you're a civilian.
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely, like I said, they instill in your head since day one. You're once a Marine, always a Marine. So no matter what, if you go home, you're still gonna be a Marine. You still, represent yourself well, represent yourself with respect. And when I came home, I was really confused because I was, I served my country, but now what? Like,
what? You didn't get an education while you were there.
So you can use your educational benefits once you hit 2 years in the military. They give you the option to use TA, and once I hit my 2 years, I registered for my classes. I took my placement test to go to college, and all I had to do was pick my classes. But my boss, unfortunately, he didn't let me do that.
What do you mean your boss didn't let you do that? Are they allowed to do that?
No, but I didn't know that until when the end of my term came, and they asked me, why didn't you do school? And I was like, well, because my boss said no. And they were like, he wasn't allowed to do that. And I was like, well, if I would have went behind that man's back and went to school, you don't know the life that I was going to endure because of
See,
that.
as a mom, as a parent, as a concerned parent, I hear your story, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of you out there are asking the same question. You kind of were lost, like you didn't know what you were doing, or you were just there to have your uniform on, your combat boot, and a shotgun, and you were trained to kill, practically.
Mm-hmm.
But I am sure that there's more than that. I know that the military prepares you for, well, that's what they're saying. So that's why I want the story to be told, because I don't know exactly if one of our listeners saying, but why would I send my child to the military when Lisandra was there for 4 years and she really didn't do much. She didn't learn anything. They didn't prepare my daughter to come home and have a job. What really did you gain out of all this?
Well, I know some of it sounds really negative, but like I said, it made me into a completely different person. I'm super independent. I don't depend on nobody for nothing. I worked for those 4 years. I was working 12-hour days, 7 days a week, no days off. So they instilled work ethics in me, respect rank. So a lot of good things came out of it, and there were a lot of really sucky parts. But just because I didn't get to go to school during those 4 years, now I get to go to school now for free. So it's the little things that I get to read.
Well, you're still young. How old are you now?
I'm 23.
Yeah, you're very young.
Right. So now I get to go to school for free. I got to travel, and my circumstances weren't ideal.
Let me correct that. It's not for free. You earned that.
Yeah, I earned it. So I'm reaping the benefits now. But when I was in, I also had the same thought. I was like, what is this all for? Because I have an amazing job. I actually really liked my job that I had.
And what was that job? You didn't mention,
so
or I didn't ask.
I was an aviation maintenance data specialist, which basically, and I worked for the Harriers, so the jets. So I basically just did all the paperwork for the airplanes. So I sat behind a desk and I viewed their inspections, their parts, stuff like that. So if I had a really important job, and then once I gained rank, my more responsibility came and stuff like that. So I actually really got good at my job, and a lot of people requested me to come help fix their programs and teach the Marines the ways that I was taught and stuff like that. So I really liked my job. I learned a lot. I love the aviation department. I will go work for them if I got an opportunity to this day. And I just, a lot of good came from it. And I know a lot of sucky parts came from it too.
I do believe that perhaps you were not quite prepared to face what was going to happen to you within those 4 years? I mean, not prepared because nobody prepared for a lot of things in life, but as a young girl going into the Marine and face all these obstacles and a lot of things, you face suicide, or one of your best friends took her life. You went into this boot camp not knowing exactly what was going to happen to you. Do you believe that you have that you experience, or you think that the PTSD, like it's perhaps you would suffered or have any episodes of your
I'm thankful
history?
that I don't have PTSD, thank God. But my best friend, who, our best friend who we shared, like I met in boot camp, her name is Guernsey. She actually got diagnosed with PTSD because of our best friend killing herself, and that's something that's so shitty to endure. She's 22 and she has to live with this trauma of our best friend dying, right? And we talked to her the day before it happened. So you can get PTSD from really anything, but I'm grateful that I don't have it, and a lot of Marines really, really, really suffer really badly.
As a veteran, do you coming home now? You're a veteran.
Mhm.
Let's talk about health insurance. Does health insurance really? Because we hear so many negative things about the veterans insurance. Are you do you have any experience with health insurance
Yes.
as after you left the Marine?
So yes, so actually one of the main reasons why I also wanted to join was because I was under the impression that I would have health insurance for the rest of my life. That's what me and my mother understood. That, okay, I do this, I'm set with my health insurance. I don't have to pay for health insurance.
Right.
And I was young, but I still understood that was a really big deal. And come to find out, you have to do 20 years for that to get full health insurance for the rest of your life. You have to retire. And I'm like, okay, well, I did 4 years, and
But
what
you
if
wanted to stay, but they didn't want you.
right? I wanted to stay. They didn't want me. They didn't need me. So I'm like, okay. So I come home and I'm like, my health insurance expired the day that my contract ended at 12 o'clock at night. Right.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, what if I have to go to the hospital and I get sick or something? Then that's a freaking $5,000 bill that I can't even afford. No job, no nothing. And then during that class, the TRS class, which is the transition class, they talked about getting health insurance, but you have to do night and day, a whole bunch of stuff just to qualify for not even like nothing.
So right now you have no health insurance?
Well, I do. So when I got home, I was like, I can't live like this. I can't be with nothing, because what if
you didn't have anything lined up when you were coming home?
Nothing. Because like, what was I going to do? Search up health insurance? I don't know nothing about that. So I found online that there was this form of health insurance, health benefits, they called it, that I could qualify for. And all I had to do was send in my proof of service, which is what I did. And I got approved for it. But you could go to the doctor for like certain things. Like if you have a cold, they might take you. If you fall down the stairs.
Very limited.
Yeah, it's very, very, very
limited coverage.
Right. So then I signed up for it, and I'm like, okay, this will hold me till, I find something a little bit better. But then I had put in for disability when I was still in. That's the least I could do, make sure that I was okay. So I applied for disability.
Based on what?
Just based on like over the years, if I have a history of back pain, I put in my disability. Okay, I've been prescribed medicine for back pain. You guys should see me. If they think that it's reasonable that I get covered for the rest of my life, then they'll cover me for the rest of my life for back pain because I have a history of it. Stuff like that.
So you have to have a pre-existing condition.
Right. So you have to basically like have been covered for the past 4 years for it. So I didn't really have much. Like, okay, I went to the doctor once because my back was hurting. Like I didn't really go to the doctor that much. So I applied and I was like, okay, I'm just going to put everything that's wrong with me now. I'm going to put, okay, my knees hurt, my hips hurt, my legs hurt, my freaking ears don't work. And then they started sending me appointments to get seen by veteran doctors. And then I got seen for my ears. And then I also put that I suffered from anxiety, but I don't have a history of anxiety.
Okay. So
I had an appointment.
Not a pre-existing.
No. So I was like, you know what? Let me just put it because you never know. So I put it and I met with this doctor and we talked.
Are you experiencing anxiety though?
Right. So I never had a history of it. And then I talked to this doctor for 45 minutes the most. And a couple months ago, they diagnosed me with anxiety just from that one phone call alone. And
wow.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. So then I got approved for a couple other things for disability. And then once you hit a certain amount of percentage, then you qualify for health benefits.
And that would be for life?
Yeah, for life. But if they decide to do an audit on you and you're like not really using your benefits the way you're supposed to, then they could take it away.
Have you experienced going to the Veterans Hospital in New Jersey?
I have. And
Well, how was that experience?
for the most part, I had an appointment. So I figured like when I had my appointments, I was okay. I was treated very nicely. But I can see that when you don't have an appointment, when you're just showing up there, it's not good. It's a shit show, basically.
So you feel that you pay the you serve the country for 4 years.
I definitely believe I should be at a better doctor, 100%. But
Wow.
I'm taking what I'm getting, so.
Wow. And when you meet the recruiter for the first time, and I'm going to go back to the recruiter. You meet the recruiter for the first time. He sell you a dream. I'm going to be traveling and all this. Do you get someone to sit with you when it's ready for you to come home, to prepare you, to line you up for a job, to line you up for what's coming to you as a civilian?
No, I applied. So my plan was, okay, my contract's coming up soon. I'm going to apply my plan was to work and then go to school. Focus on work. And then when I have the time, do school. But that was in the summer, right? When COVID was like going off. So I applied for like 60 jobs and I got 2 interviews and I didn't get any jobs. And at that point I had to come home. So I had no job.
So you had to come back home to
I came back home to my mom's house.
To your mom's house.
Yeah. Came back home to my mom's. Everything was set up for me. And I just didn't have a job, didn't have nothing. So I was like, okay, what do I do now? Like, I'm just sitting here with my, like a sitting duck doing nothing. So then I sat down and I was like, I talked to my sister and I was like, what do I do? And she's like, let's apply for school. Let's see if you could get into a university. But it was already late July. And you know, the deadlines for school are like March. So I'm like, I don't know even if they're going to accept me. And she's like, it's okay if they don't accept you. You go in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So then I applied. I actually ended up getting I only applied for one school. I got in right away.
Thank God.
And then I started going to school right away.
And what are you going to school for? What are you majoring?
Information technology with the cybersecurity.
Did you feel you kind of were cheated by the system?
I think towards the end, like the transition, I think that it should be a little bit more in depth, a little bit like help you a little bit better, because I feel like every Marine struggles with this. They don't know what to do because all we know is we've been having somebody tell us what to do for 4 years and then they kick us out with nothing but a plane ticket home.
So how is you coming home, being an independent woman, being in the Marine, being a badass with combat boots and this amazing uniform and a shotgun, but now you're no longer none of that. Mm-hmm. Now you're coming home and live with mom. How was that experience? You being so independent.
Yeah, so it was a little rough. It's like a honeymoon stage. Like I loved being home, and then it started to settle. I'm like, okay, well, this house is a little loud for me. A couple months ago, I had my own apartment. I was doing whatever I wanted. I had over whoever I wanted, and now I come home to mom's rules, and I'm like, okay, this is a little bit harder for me than I thought. And as the time came, like once the summer ended, that's when it really hit me. I'm like, okay, now I'm done with the military. I didn't think that I was gonna be done, but now I'm done. And now I hate being home. I hate living at home because I can't deal with it. It was just night and day. I lived by myself. Now I live in a house with my sisters, and I love my family so much, but it's just such a transition that it's really hard to handle. Well, it's a little bit better now, and they didn't understand either. They're like, you should be happy you're home. Why are you so miserable all the time? And I'm like, I just can't. Like, I can't. You don't understand. I don't expect you to understand, but you need to give me some space. Let me breathe a little bit.
And with the COVID and the whole situation, it makes it harder for you.
And my mom is very like, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Okay, you can't be mad. You have no reason to be mad. You have no reason to have an attitude.
It's a concern, mom. That's her reaction.
Yeah, and I'm like, girl, I don't expect you to understand, but just leave me alone. And God forbid I tell my mother to leave me alone. So... But it's gotten better.
A Latina mom would tell you, don't talk to me like that.
Yeah,
right?
But it's a lot better. They understand where I come from. Once I sat down and I talked to them, I'm like, listen, like I have anxiety. This is making it a lot worse. And it's just, I need some space. And then when I would feel that way, they would be like, okay. And then honestly, I would just go to California for like a month and I'd come back feeling so much better.
Nice. So you have options.
Yeah.
So, Lisandra, if you will be that 17-year-old girl today,
Hmm.
will you go back to that recruiter and make the same decision?
Hmm. 100%. Yes.
Why? Because I hear also negative things about the Marine Corps,
Hmm.
but what positive, I know that you learned so much and independency was one of them,
Hmm.
but I also know that they didn't prepare you enough to line up any jobs, anything to come home. What would you do if you will be 17-year-old again?
If I was 17 years old again, I would have looked at other branches for sure.
Other institution,
Yes,
yes.
I would have looked up other branches. I would have watched more YouTube videos. I would have talked to more female Marines. That nowadays there's Facebook pages. You can ask them. You can ask anybody anything. But back then, I didn't know. I wish that I would have brought my sister with me because at the time, she wasn't living with us, so she was living her own life. So it was just me and my mom. But if I would have brought my sister with me now, she would have been like, absolutely not. You're not doing this. But I wish I would have brought her. I wish I would have. I think that's really it. Just did a little bit more research.
Do you
And
regret going into the Marines?
no, absolutely not. It's the best decision I've ever made. I recommend it for anybody who doesn't want to go to college, who doesn't know what they're doing with their life. Just, just do some research. But at the end of the day, just if you don't do it now, you're never gonna do it.
And that was my question, my next question. What would you tell the young generation that would like to join the Marine or any other institution?
It's a great level of pride to carry, and I definitely have a lot of pride in this country. I love this country. And if you feel the same way, there's nothing that should hold you back from making such a great decision. And if you're scared, everybody was scared. I was scared. I mean, I'm scared talking about it still. Like, but it's over. It doesn't last forever unless you want it to. And only good things come from it. Some negative things may come, but I mean, I'm reaping the benefits now, which is great. So
When you say ripping the benefits, how much are you ripping them? Like, not financially, but what kind of benefits are you getting right now?
So like I said, I have the health insurance, which is great. I get to go to school for free. I don't have to pay for not even a book. I don't pay for. They pay me actually to go there. That's amazing. No loans, and if you want to you can use your school benefits for anything. If you want to go to a trading school, if you want to learn something, you can use it to do whatever. And I just think that now I can relax and sit back and take a break. Like I'm taking a break now because I was working for so long, and I've just been, really relaxed and reaping the benefits.
So you're still in school right now?
Yeah, I'm a full-time student.
Full-time student.
Mhm.
And what year are you on right now?
I'm going to be a sophomore come the fall.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Well, parents, I believe that we should be more educated when it comes to sending our kids to any institution. I know serving the country, it's the right thing to do, but for the right reason. Lisandra, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your story. I am sure that there is a lot of youngsters that are going to listen to this podcast. And they're going to take this to the max to know that before you decide to meet that recruiter, before you decide to tell your mom and dad that I am leaving home because I'm going to get free college, there should be more information, more in detailed information to look for as a Marine or any institution that you would join. Thank you so much for sharing your story.